Welcome to a video tutorial of AuctionRPM. My name is Dan Zumwalt, and in this video we're going to be discussing the custom form processing. Custom form processing was originally developed especially for vehicle auctioneers. Although not only vehicle auctioneers would use this, there may be several other applications for this processing. The concept here is that when certain things happen in the program, such as when a vehicle is sold, there are certain forms for the Department of Motor Vehicles that are printed, and those forms can be programmed into AuctionRPM to be automatically produced by the program when the vehicle is sold. And of course, one of the key factors of this is you need to indicate not only when you want those forms printed, but you also need to indicate where they are to print and what categories of inventory they are to be printed for. Let's start off with how do we define a custom form. To begin with, let's go to Tools, and then under the Advanced tab we're going to click on Custom Form Designer. In the Custom Form Designer you'll find initially there will be no custom forms listed here, and you're going to be given the ability to enter in a new custom form by pressing the New button. One point of notation here is that if you click on that button, you may get an error indicating that it was not able to communicate with your scanner. Now in this computer that I'm connected to here, I do have a scanner connected, and so we got no error. But if you didn't not happen to have a scanner connected, it would tell you that it was unable to communicate with the scanner. In that scenario, you would just simply hit OK and pass on to the next screen, which is what we're looking at here. I'll go ahead and click New here, and as a result, the fields will be prepared for a new custom form to be designed. Let's go ahead and type in a description here. We'll call it My Custom Form. I'll indicate that when it prints, I only want one, that the page orientation of this custom form is portrait orientation, and that when it prints, I want it to show on the screen first before it would ever go to a printer, and thus give me the opportunity to indicate that I want to actually print it, or maybe I just wanted to view it and then not print it. I'll go ahead and leave it at Display Preview of Report. Now that we've entered in these few basic parameters here, let's go ahead and go to the Form Layout and Elements. Now in Form Layout and Elements, we start off with indicating what type of background this form has, and there's two backgrounds that we can select from, either image style or document style. Now image style allows us to talk with our scanner and scan in a form. Let's see how that works. I'm going to go ahead and click on Scan Form here. That's going to go to my scanner. Actually what it's going to do is it's going to allow me to select a source for where my scanner is. I have two video sources with my computer here. I can either talk to the Canon scanner that I have connected to my laptop computer here, or I can use the laptop integrated webcam if I wanted to. I'll go ahead and use this scanner here, and I'll hit Select. And now what it's going to do is it's going to communicate with the scanner, and it will scan the document that I have in there. I just created a sample document using Word, and I printed it out and placed it in the scanner, and that's what we're about to look at here. Now, a representation of that form is sitting right here. If I want to get a better view of it, I can click on View Scanned Form, and as a result I would then be shown that form. I'll hit Return at the bottom, and now we'll come back here and I can proceed on. Now the other style of background is document style. Now this is especially useful if we've created a form using something like Microsoft Word. In the case of Microsoft Word, I can then copy that form and then paste it into my document editor, which is what appears when I click on this button here. I could also clear the background document that's here. If I created a form in Microsoft Word and I pasted it into the background editor, which is underneath this button here, then what I'm about to do would laying elements onto the form would be laid on top of that background that I've created in Word. I want to keep it though as an image style, and I'm going to go ahead and use this form that I've scanned in from my scanner. Well, the next step is to identify the customized pieces of information that would be placed at various XY coordinates on the scanned form. And that's done under the Layout Assistant. So I'm going to click on this button here entitled Show Layout Assistant. That'll take us to the Layout Assistant screen where we'll see an example of the form itself. You can see here on the left-hand side of the screen an example of the form, and on the right-hand side you can also see the form elements list. You can add elements here, change the coarse and fine adjustment, and render the page. Now in this demonstration you'll find that what you're looking at right now, the screen that you're looking at right now goes beyond what you can see right now in this video. But go ahead and click on that Form Layout Assistant button, and you'll see a more fuller representation of how to use the Layout Assistant. Essentially what you do is you click on the Add button here. You identify what type of element you wish to place, either a data variable, a screen prompt for data, literal text, or shape. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on data variable. Once you do that, then down here in this area you identify what variable you want to place. I'll click on this button here, and then I'll be presented with a list of all of the different kinds of information that can be placed on your custom form. Maybe you want today's date or today's time, maybe the auctioneer name or address. If I scroll down, under General Auction Information, you can have the auction number, the date and time from, the inspection date, maybe the auction name. Maybe that's something that you want there. Scrolling further, the invoice number, invoice date. Remember, all of these pieces of information that are here are all of the pieces of information that AuctionRPM keeps track of related to an individual piece of inventory that you are selling. And so when you go to print this custom form, of course you're identifying what piece of inventory you wish to sell, or that you wish to print this custom form for. And so if I, for instance, defined a custom form that if I scroll down here, I put a lot number on, well, it would be the lot number of the inventory item that we just sold for, and thus are printing this custom form for. I'll go ahead and scroll up to the top, or actually I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and one of the pieces of information here is the buyer name. I'll go ahead and select buyer name and hit select. And now if you'll notice in small letters right up here, you can see a very small buyer name. And that buyer name is currently sitting at XY position 00. Now what I can do is I can use my coarse location adjustment to start changing where I want that buyer name to be located. Maybe I want to move it down to this Y coordinate and move it over to that X coordinate. Well, now that I've done that, I can hit render page, and you can see as soon as I do hit register or render page, it moves my buyer name down to that XY coordinate, which is X1000 Y2350. Maybe I want that buyer name to be a little bigger than just the small font that it is right now. So down here in this area, I'll go ahead and indicate that I want it to be, let's say 18 point, and I want it to be bold. So you can see now that Joe Buyer here is an 18 point and it's bold. Well, it needs to move over a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and use my coarse location adjustment. I'll re-render the page, and see now you can see how it's moving over, and I'm indicating that the buyer indeed is rendered and is to be placed at that XY location. You would repeat that process for each individual piece of information, designing the way that this form is to be produced when the time comes. I'll go ahead and hit exit at the bottom of the screen, and that'll return us back to the custom form designer. And now we're going to go over to the print event triggers. We've been working on the form layout and elements tab now. So let's go to print event triggers, and this is where we're going to identify what events are going to trigger the production of this custom form. Do I want this custom form when a bidder is registered for an auction? Do I want it to print out this custom form when a new inventory item is recorded, or when an inventory item is assigned to a lot, or when an invoice is printed, or when a bid is entered? So these are the different triggers that can trigger when this custom form is to be produced. Also, here under Associated Inventory Categories, this is where you would identify what what inventory categories are going to be subject to the production of this custom form. So for instance, I'm going to click on Add Inventory Category to List, and then it'll tell me that it must be saved first before this operation can be completed. I'll go ahead and say yes. And now it's going to ask for what category of inventory I want to make subject to this custom form. So I'll go ahead and say that I only want this custom form when I am working on a vehicle. So I'll go ahead and choose vehicle. And I only want this form to print out when a new inventory item is recorded. So when I create a new inventory item, and if that item is a vehicle, then this custom form will automatically be printed. I'll go ahead and hit Done here and answer yes to save changes. And let's visit a couple settings that affect the custom form processing. I'll hit Exit here, and still under Tools I'm going to go to General and then go to Settings and Defaults. In Settings and Defaults I'll click on Print Settings, and you'll notice here on the left that there is a Special Forms Printer. This Special Forms Printer is the printer where these custom forms are going to be printed. So if I wanted all of my custom forms to go to a special printer, I could identify that printer here, and that's the only printer that those forms would go to. Right now I'm using a Samsung printer for my standard report printer. I'll go ahead and use the same printer here. So I'll just select that there, and now that Samsung printer is the same printer where all of my custom forms will go. I'll hit Exit here, answer yes to save changes. And now finally, let's go up to Auctions and Day of Auction and notice that there is an option here called Print Custom Forms. Now remember, when I defined this form, I indicated that the form is to automatically print out when I enter in a new inventory record, and only when that inventory record is vehicles. Well, let's say that you went ahead, you did print that custom form, but maybe for one reason or another you want to reprint that form. You can do that simply by going into Print Custom Forms here, and in doing so it would show you all invoices where that custom form might be printable from. You also have the ability under Preparation and Add Edit Lots, over on the right hand side, if you highlight a piece of inventory that in our case, in our example, is a vehicle, you can use this button down here to trigger custom forms. You can manually trigger those custom forms for them to be printed. And then when you produce that form, it will produce, and because of the way we defined it, it will produce on the screen, and then I'll wait for me to hit the print button before it actually goes to the printer. I'll go ahead and hit Exit here and return back to the menu, and that will conclude our discussion of the custom forms processing in AuctionRPM. If you have any questions or comments about this video or any others in the AuctionRPM.com website, please give us a call. The phone number is 209-588-1232. Thank you for listening.